If you are considering starting a vintage resale business, one of the biggest decisions that you're going to need to make is whether you want to sell online or in an actual brick and mortar store. In this video, I'm going to share with you what I feel are several pros and cons of each platform so that if you are just getting started and are trying to decide where you're going to sell, or if you're already doing one and want to add on the other as an additional layer of your business, I hope that this video helps you to make the best decision for you and for your business. Okay, let's get started at the beginning. I think that we can assume that our sourcing processes are going to be pretty much the same for each platform. So let's start from when you actually get your new vintage or antique items home. Now, if you sell online, I see this as a con. There is going to be a rather extensive process for cleaning, photographing, and actually listing your items. So you need to be prepared for your photographs to be able to compete with some, I'm telling you, amazingly beautiful photographs that I see online on sites like Etsy and eBay. You're going to need several good photographs of all of your items, and you need to figure out how to properly light your items, whether you're going to use natural lighting or whether you're going to purchase a light box so that all your items look the same behind, sitting in front of a white background. In addition to photography, then you're going to need to upload all of those photos to your listing and then write a good description of every single thing that you want to sell. Now, I have noticed that a lot of sellers are using AI to help them write descriptions, and that is definitely going to speed up your processes. The reason I can tell people are using it is because when I go to Google Lens to research an item, I will see the same description being used on different sites for the same item. So I'm sure that AI is just pulling up similar descriptions for items, and that would definitely make things a whole lot quicker and easier. What I see as a plus for selling in a store is that I just have to clean my items and then write a quick little price tag and then affix my little price tag to my item and then place the item in my antique booth. So I do see that as a benefit of selling in a store as opposed to selling online. The next thing I want to talk about is the fact that I just simply enjoy decorating a space. So I really enjoy having a space and placing my items carefully and thoughtfully in a way that I feel makes them look nice. Sometimes I group items by color or I will group items by style. For instance, antique or mid-century modern or more traditional, and I will group those items together in a way that I feel is visually appealing to my customers. Now, my booth is very heavily reliant on the sale of smalls. I have been there and done that with selling furniture and trying to flip furniture and refinish furniture, and it is a ton of work, and it was my dream to be able to make it financially in my booth selling smalls alone, and I have been able to do that. But I will say that when I did sell furniture, I just really enjoyed creating little vignettes and styling my furniture with my smalls. So, all of that said, I enjoy that, but the con here is that of course, that means I have to pay booth rent to have that space to do that. So if you're selling online, you don't have to pay someone a booth rental fee every month, but you do have to pay the website that's hosting your listings your listing fee. And so they get their cut that way. Okay, here's the benefit I can see in selling online. When you sell online, you're going to get immediate knowledge of your sales. So I have a friend who has an Etsy shop, and she also has several antique booths in our store. And every time she gets a sale on Etsy, her phone gives her a little notification sound. And so she immediately knows, that she sold something and she could go in there and look at it. And then as soon as she gets home, I'm sure she starts her shipping process. So I see that as a benefit. Now, the way that you learn about your sales is going to vary greatly from store to store. Some stores are more technologically advanced than others. I will say that our store is more on the old-fashioned side. if you want, you can go every single day and look at the log that we keep. It's an actual handwritten notebook where whoever's working the cash register logs every single item that sold that day, and then you can just scroll through the pages and look for your, vendor code and see what you sold that day. Now, I know that there are other stores out there that have an online platform where all the vendors can go in and look at each day's sales because they're already, being kept in a database. We don't have that, but like I said, it's not that hard if you really want to know on a daily basis what's sold. Our other option is to wait for our paycheck and see what's sold. And we get a Microsoft Excel report and we also get our actual price tags back, which is so nice. To me, it's just like Christmas morning every time. I love going through my envelope and looking at my price tags to see what's sold because the thing about me is that even though I carefully arrange all of my items and do that thoughtfully. When I go visit my booth and I see an open spot, I know that there was something there, but I often can't remember what was there. I don't take photographs of my booth. Some people do that to deal with that issue. Our store just does not have a lot of theft, so we're fortunate. I don't take photographs of my booths. But then when I go through my envelope and I look at what's sold and I see my price tags, I'm like, "Oh, yeah, that's what was in that spot." So for me, all of that is fun, but I can definitely see how selling online would give you the benefit of knowing immediately what sold for you. Now, the downside of that, in my opinion, is that, when you get that notification from Etsy or eBay that you have sold something, your work is not done. That means you have to get home, get in your storage space or wherever it is that you're keeping all your inventory, pack those items up and ship them. So for me, when I sell something, my work is done. The money is taken at the cash register and the person gets to go home and they have their item. I don't have to do any further work. I actually really like that. I like the fact that I can put my items in my booth and then I don't have to think about them again. They're either going to sell or they're not. And so I actually really enjoy that. Once I put it in, I'm done and I don't have to think about it anymore. Okay, what I see as a pro of working in an antique store is the camaraderie of my coworkers. So I really enjoy getting to know them. We have a lot in common. We all love vintage and antiques. We like talking about them. We like telling how we found them. We love talking about what's sold and all that stuff. But it's not just that. We also have become friends and we talk about our personal lives and our families. So it's not just that we talk about antiques and vintage. Now, it's gonna be important to know pretty quickly whether or not your antique store or vintage market requires work days from its vendors. Our antique store requires that we work 2 days per month. These are required work days where we do not get paid per booth space. So I have 1 booth, so I work 2 days per month. If you have 5 spaces, you have to work 10 days per month. That's gonna be important to know. Not all antique stores require you to work. Ours does, and when I say work, I don't mean sitting in your booth and working and cleaning and dusting and reorganizing. I mean you're working for the benefit of the whole store. So, you might be working the cash register, bringing up sales, packing up sales, answering the phone, assisting customers with open cases. You are working on those days for the benefit of every vendor and not just for yourself. Now, you may or may not have time to do all that. If you work a 40-hour per week job, Monday through Friday, that's gonna probably mean giving up a weekend day or 2, and some people just cannot or will not do that. So it's really important to know when you're choosing what antique store you're gonna work at, whether or not they require their vendors to work. So for instance, in our store, I pay booth rental that's based on the square footage of my booth, and we pay 10% commission on every single item that we sell to the owner of the store, and then we have those 2 required work days where we do not get paid for those hours. I'm sitting outside today because I really like the lighting. I struggle with lighting because of my glasses so much. It doesn't matter how I illuminate my face. I am going to get a reflection of whatever light I'm using on in my glasses and it drives me crazy. So I'm sitting outside, but I'm also freezing. It's a, it's a beautiful day. It's nice and sunny, but it's also cold. So I'm going to get a sip of coffee. Let's talk about what I see as a huge benefit of selling online. When you sell online, you are probably going to be able to expect higher profits on your items. Let me explain why I think that's the case. When you sell online, you're going to have a much wider audience. So you are going to be able to find your people. And I'm going to use these salt and pepper shakers as an example to illustrate this point. These were a gift from a friend, so I have no desire to sell these. When I researched these salt and pepper shakers, I was not able to find an exact pair. So I know that these are rare. I know that they are mid-century modern cat salt and pepper shakers and that they were probably made in the 1950s. So these are special. Now, the only pair that I could find that even was similar to mine was on Etsy, and the seller had them listed for $60. Now, in my store, no one is going to pay $60 for a pair of salt and pepper shakers. I don't care how rare they are or how cool they are. That is an instance in which, because you are attracting an audience of people that is much broader and they are going into a search engine and just typing, mid-century modern cat salt and pepper shakers, that customer is going to be willing to pay more because they want exactly that thing. For me, I just have customers walking through a store and they might see something like this and it catches their eye. But honestly, no one in our store is going to be willing to pay more than, say, $22 for a set of salt and pepper shakers. And that's just the way it is. So I do see this as an opportunity for you to actually get a higher price point by selling online as opposed to selling in a store. Okay, the next, I would say, con of selling in a store is the wear and tear, the mileage, and the gas prices that you're going to be putting on your vehicle. For instance, my antique booth is 2 hours away from my home. So I go there for those two work days every month. And during those weekends, I also restock my antique booth. And sometimes I completely rearrange it and all kinds of stuff. So I'm clearly putting a lot of miles on my car and spending a lot of money on gas going back and forth. You won't be really doing that as much if you are selling online. Like, okay, Callie wants to join in the video. She said she wants to be on YouTube as well. If you're selling online, you're still going to be putting miles on your car to go out and source items, but you're not having to constantly drive to a booth space to do your job. And do you know that there are online sellers who actually have a storage unit that they keep all of their inventory in, and then they go in and do all of their shipping from their storage unit? One of the resellers that I watch, his name is Brian. I'll have to look up the name of his channel, but he rents out a storage unit and all of his inventory is in his storage unit. And then he just goes there and actually has his shipping counter and all that in there too. So his workspace is away from his home. And I think that's pretty cool. I'll get into that more in a minute, but obviously he's having to pay money to rent out that storage unit. Okay, let's talk a little bit more about the inventory and the inventory space. So I am very proud to say that I do not have the dreaded death pile. And you probably know what that means if you have been watching videos or if you are a vintage reseller already. But the death pile is just like a pile of inventory that you have, but it's not in your booth or it's not listed on your online store yet. It could be an entire garage full of stuff that you've bought at garage sales and thrift stores, and you just haven't gotten around to putting it in your antique booth or on your online store. Or it could just be a closet full, or it could just be a shelf full of stuff. But basically, that's what the death pile refers to is the stuff that's just sitting there. It's not listed, it's not in the booth, and it's not making you any money. All it's doing is taking up space. So by having my inventory space be my antique booth, I don't buy more than I can put in my booth. I will go into my booth with 3 bags of new smalls, and from the looks of it, I have nowhere to put it, but I will figure out how to get all that stuff in there, even if it means taking things out that have been sitting there for a couple of years and haven't sold. Sometimes I will take those out, but I don't just put them back into a death pile, into an inventory space. If it hasn't sold for a couple of years, I don't have the option of putting it online because, like I said, I don't have that second layer of my business of also selling online. I will just donate it back to Goodwill, basically, is what I do. I do not just store it away somewhere in my house. So I'm proud to say that I don't have a death pile. I am a vintage reseller and I love vintage items, but I also really admire the Minimalist Mom. Have you seen her YouTube channel? She has a really successful YouTube channel, and her entire topic of her channel is how to declutter your home and declutter your mind and your life. And so I have this dichotomy going on where I love going out and collecting new things, but I don't actually keep them in my house. I do have a desire to declutter the storage areas in my basement. I'm fortunate that I have a basement. So if I do sell online someday, I do have a place that I can store my inventory where I don't have to rent a storage unit. But I also have a desire to clean out my closets in my basement and declutter. I'm happy to say that I don't have a death pile. I see this as a plus for me. I don't have to have a dedicated inventory space either in my house or off site. All of my inventory is actually in my booth. And I just know this about me. I watch videos of other resellers who sell online, and they have all of their inventory just very carefully labeled so that when they sell it, they immediately know where to find it. I have a feeling about myself that I would struggle with that a bit. I also struggle with procrastination with actually pricing my items. Of course, I love going out and shopping for them and buying them. I think that's everybody's favorite part. But I will admit that I'm a bit of a procrastinator when it comes to cleaning and pricing my items. And, since I go to my booth twice a month, I will wait till the last day to get all that stuff out of their bags, clean it, price it, and pack it up securely and bubble wrap and all that to transport it to my antique booth. So I have a feeling about myself that if I did have to have an inventory for the purposes of selling online, that I would probably struggle with keeping it well organized. And I would also probably procrastinate about that whole listing process that we talked about at the beginning of the video. The listing, the photographing, the writing of the descriptions, and the uploading all of that. So anyway, this is just why I've made the decision that I've made. Oh, one quick final note is that I have thought about selling online. I did want to add an Etsy store and do that in addition to my antique booth, not instead. But ultimately, I decided that I really wanted to focus on this YouTube channel. And I feel like if I try to do all three of those things, the booth, the online store, and the YouTube channel, that I won't do any of them very well. So I've kind of decided what I want to do is the antique booth and the YouTube channel, which is really enjoyable. I hope you're enjoying the videos. Thank you so much for all the people who have subscribed and commented. Your comments mean a lot to me, and I reply to all of my comments or at least acknowledge them. If I can't reply to every single comment on a video, know that I have read it because if you've gotten a heart or a like from me, that means I have read it. So I really appreciate your support of my channel, and I hope that you found this video valuable wherever you are in your journey. And as always, I look forward to seeing you again in the next video.
You're so good on camera, Callie. You're so good on camera.